Yeah, Mr. Innocent, you can just close your video. It's fine.
I can do what?
Yeah, you can close your video. Yeah. All right. So,
Hello, good evening, sir.
while we wait for others to join in, my name is Chinedu. I'm a facility manager, and I'll be taking you on this course. While others join in, can we quickly do a brief introduction? The introduction goes like this. You introduce yourself, your name, what you do, and where you live. So you can just unmute and quickly do that before we commence the class. Sorry, Mr. Daniel, you can close your video. We not necessarily need your video to be on. Yeah. So let's start with the introduction. Mr. Innocent, let's start from you.
So that introduction?
Yeah, you can just introduce yourself, your name, what you do, and where you live. In that order.
Okay. My name is Engineer Innocent Saturday Fred. I do project engineering by profession. And my primary is mechanical engineering. I live in Port Harcourt.
All right,
but I work in
fantastic. Welcome to the class. So, Mr. Riwan, can we have your introduction? A quick one, please. Hello, Mr. Riwan. If you're not available at the moment, let's have Mr. Daniel Aja introduce yourself.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, I'm Mr. Daniel Aja. I'm a business person. I deal on good stuff. I'm also a plumber. And I'm also trying to venture into facility management as a profession. I live at Lekki Aja.
Okay, thank you. I didn't really hear you very well, but I believe others heard you. Amira Hassan, can we quickly have your introduction?
Yes. Good evening. So to confirm, name, what I do, what else, please?
And your location, where you live, yes.
Okay. My name is Amira Hassan, facility manager for the last 6 years. 5 years managing a 21-floor building and 1 year managing my own facility management company. I live in Gbagada, Lagos. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Welcome. Mr. Obaro Apobasa. Sorry if I pronounce it wrongly.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Obaru Akobasa. I'm an architect based in Port Harcourt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Daniel Ekwere.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Daniel Ekwere. I work with Presco PLC as a workshop manager. 10 years experience. Live in Benin City.
Okay, that's great. Mr. Edidiong, yeah, please. Okay, yeah, good enough. You've closed your video. So can you quickly introduce yourself in this order? Your name, what you do, and where you live. So this introduction is just going to take us for 7 minutes, then the classes starts proper. All right, Mr. Edidion, maybe you're not available at the moment. So we are commencing the class, and host, please, can you give me the permission to share my screen? So while we wait for the host to give me permission to share screen, the course is building code and regulatory compliance. And on this course, we would understand what building code is. We would understand some regulatory agencies, and then we would understand what compliance really is and how it affects us as facility managers and the built environment. So I urge you to follow me on this class. Let's make it be a conversation. And at any point you want to, maybe you have a question, you have a suggestion, or you want to get clarity on some things, you can unmute your mic and speak. However, I would want this to be a conversational class. We are all in the built environment. So what we are doing currently would one or two ways be in relation to the course we are taking at the moment. Host, please, can you give me permission to share my screen, or you can just share the screen for me, if you can hear me? While that is happening, Mr. Ibrahim Salati joined. Mr. Edidion, we are still here to get your introduction. Rilwan Abdullahi, we are still here to get your introduction.
Sir, you can share your screen now. Did you hear me?
Yes, I'm sharing my screen right away.
All right.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see it. I can see it.
All right. So like I said, building code and regulatory compliance. And my name is Chinedu. I am the facilitator for this class, and I am the facility manager. And these are a few rules for the class. Introduction, students to consider their training environment and eliminate possible interruptions, one conversation at a time. Participants should only unmute their mic when they want to speak. Signify interaction with the hand raise option. So a break time will be communicated by the facilitator during the training. So the module 1, regulatory compliance and building code. So let's look at what regulatory compliance really is. So regulatory compliance refers to an organization's adherence to laws, regulations, guidelines, and specifications relevant to its business processes and operations. And the goal is just to ensure that organizations operate ethically, protect consumer rights, and maintain industry standards. In an industry that doesn't have any regulation, there will be chaos. Everybody will just be doing whatever it is that they like. And you know, when people do things they like the way they want it, a lot of substandard practices will be in operation. People will practice without qualifications, and that would lead to disaster. So compliance ensures that people do things ethically, and this is to protect the right of the consumers and also maintain industry standard. And I know in our various industries, we have an engineer here, we have an estate surveyor, and then various professions. And I know we all have our various regulations and also regulatory agencies in our various professions. So moving down, let's look at regulatory institutions in Nigeria. So these are not the only regulatory institutions in Nigeria that we have, but for the purpose of this class, we just listed out a few so that we can draw examples from them. So these institutions enforce laws, they set standards, and they monitor compliance to maintain ethical practices. Like I said earlier, protect consumers and also promote national development. Then we have institutions like Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute. We have the popular REDAN, Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority, National Environmental Standard and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NESRA. We have the Standard Organizations of Nigeria, SON, is very popular. We have the Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria. And of course, we have the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. What are the benefits of regulatory compliance? So, enhances environmental sustainability, and also they support urban planning and development. How do they enhance environmental sustainability? They do this by ensuring that housing projects comply with environmental standards. They ensure that wastes are disposed properly and in an eco-friendly design. And also they ensure that sustainable materials are used. So recently, everyone is talking about sustainability, ESG. United Nations is talking a lot of things about sustainability, green building. So here, the responsibility of these institutions is to ensure that we comply to environmental standards. Like the popular LOMA for Lagos State, without LOMA, you would see people dispose their waste anyhow, indiscriminately, and that would cause a lot of harm to the environment. So by so doing, they are ensuring that people adhere to these laws by disposing their waste properly. Then how do they support urban planning and development? They said compliance ensures proper adherence to zoning laws, land use regulations, and urban planning guidelines. They prevent overcrowding, illegal structures, and poorly planned neighborhoods, leading to well-organized cities. Let's look at Lagos, for example. You know, Lagos State currently demolishing a lot of buildings across Lekki, Ikate axis. Because of what? Because those buildings are blocking the drainage channels. So that is how they ensure compliance. They want to ensure that when there is a rainfall, water is discharged properly into the canals, into the oceans. So when people now fault that law and build on the drainage channels to ensure compliance, to ensure that people obey that law, they have to do what? They have to enforce it by demolishing those buildings. So this is how institutions ensure that individuals, organizations, businesses do what? Respect the laws and regulations. Then we'll move down to improve worker safety. They enforce workplace safety standards for construction workers, minimizing accidents on construction sites. Ensure compliance with labor laws and wages. They ensure compliance with labor laws related to wages and working conditions in the housing sector. For the engineer who introduced himself, I'm so sure that in your business, in your organization, you have some laws that guide how you operate. I see you are on your PPM. This is 519. That shows you are still at work. So you know what they are doing exactly is to ensure that you comply with the regulations. While you are at work, you have to adequately dress up yourself, depending on the type of work you do. So this is one of the benefits of regulatory compliance, to improve the safety of the workers. Then it also ensures structural safety and quality. Compliance with building codes and safety standards ensures that houses are built to withstand environmental factors such as wind, rain, and natural disaster. Like I said earlier, when you allow people to do whatever it is that they want, people will now start building with substandard materials, substandard build structures. You can see someone build with, someone can even build a 5-story building with a mud because there is no regulation. So these regulations ensure that people respect the laws and also build with materials that are standard. Moving further, let's look at some standards and regulations. I don't know, at this point, do you have any question so that we can look at it together and then move ahead? Is there any question from anyone? Okay, Mr. Innocent, you can ask a question, yes?
Okay, my question is on when you were, I think on the second slide, where you stipulated some of the regulatory body. Hello?
Okay.
Yes, on this slide, yes. The Nigerian Regulatory Institution. I observed that Koren is not part of your list there. Koren, that's in the Council of Regulatory for Engineers in Nigeria.
Yes. Mr. Innocent, are you an engineer?
Yes, I am.
Oh, that's why you said that. Sorry about that. But this is not in order. These are not the only regulatory institutions in Nigeria. So for the purpose of this class, I just used this so that if we want to list all of them, there are a lot of them. So we just have to pick some.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
So sorry about that. It wasn't intentional. All right, so moving ahead. The housing sector operates under a framework of standards and regulations to ensure safety, quality, affordability, and sustainability. These rules govern various aspects of housing development, construction, ownership, and maintenance. So what we're talking about here is there are standards and there are regulations, and there are rules that govern various aspects of the housing development. So we are going to look at those standards. There are a lot of them. So we just picked the ones that will just serve as an example that guides others. We have building code and standards. We have structural standards. We have electrical standards. And we have a lot of them, but let's take it one by one. Building codes, they specify the minimum safety, design, and construction requirements to ensure structural integrity and safety. Example of this is structural standard. So they provide you with guidelines for building strengths. They provide you with guidelines for stability and durability to prevent what? To prevent collapse. Earlier, we spotted out that regulations are to ensure the safety of consumer, to protect consumer rights. So all what we are doing here is to ensure that we protect the consumers. So in this case, we are protecting the occupants, people who operate and live in these buildings. So structural standards are just like guidelines for building strength, stability, and duration so as to prevent collapses. There are electrical codes, regulations for safety, electrical wiring, and installation to reduce the risk of fire and electrocution. So we all know that in a building, there are type of cables you don't use to connect some type of electrical, to make some electrical connections. So you have to use the adequate strength of cable for various type of connections. You cannot use this type of red and blue wire to connect a heavy duty electrical installation. Of course, there will be explosion in your building. So these are regulations that guides what you do and how you do it. So there are also plumbing codes. So plumbing codes are standards for water supply, sewage disposal, and drainage system to ensure what? To ensure sanitation. Fire safety standards. These are requirements for fire-resistant materials, smoke detectors, fire exits, and what? The sprinkler systems. Then we have zoning and land use regulation. The zoning rules govern how land can be used and developed to promote organized urban growth. We have what we call residential zoning, we have setback requirements, and we have density regulation. Residential zoning specifies areas for housing, and it limits commercial or industrial development. Let's take, for example, in a residential estate, we know how chaotic it could be when you have a church or a mosque sitting close to a residential apartment. Then let's now have a bigger picture of having an industry that generates a lot of noise, that generates a lot of environmental hazards, a lot of waste, be it solid, be it liquid or gas. So this zoning law protects houses so that you don't build in an area that is zoned for industries, or you don't put an industry in an area that is zoned for residential. Then setback requirements. Setback requirements specifies the minimum distance buildings must maintain from roads, property boundaries, or other structures. Let's take, for example, recently there was a particular building was demolished in Lagos by Lagos State government, and then it was raising a lot of dust, and people started arguing. So they released a memo that the building defied the setback requirement. And I think setback requirement is like 15 meters from the major. Sorry, someone is writing on my slide. Who is writing on my slide? So 15 meters from the major road, that is from the electric pole. You must give a space of 15 meters before you can start building. So that's the setback requirement in most cities in Nigeria. Then we have density regulation. So density regulation limits the number of housing units per area to prevent what? To prevent overcrowding. Standards for materials and construction. Regulations ensure the use of safety and durable materials in construction. So I gave an example to this when I was talking about cables and wiring. Standardized materials. These are requirements for bricks, cement, steels, and roofing sheets to meet quality benchmark. We also have what we call testing and certification. So testing and certification is a mandatory testing of materials before use in construction to prevent substandard inputs. So there are agencies that test your materials and certify it fit before you can use them for construction. So while we are on this class, as we progress, we will get to that stage where you see these agencies that regulate and also certify your material before you can proceed to construction. Urban and regional planning regulations. These govern the development of infrastructure and community facilities. Infrastructure standards, requirements for roads, drainage, and utility connections in housing estates. We also have community planning. So these are the mandate space for public facilities like schools, parks, and hospitals. Real estate and development standards. These regulate property development and real estate transactions. Then, recently the Lagos State government put a mandate that every agent must be registered. So you now have licensing of developers and agents. So it ensures that only qualified professionals operate in the housing sector. Then anti-fraud measures. It prevents fraudulent real estate transactions by requiring proper documentations and certifications. Without this, all and sundry will claim to be in the real estate industry and also defraud people. We know how people cry on social media every day on how they have been defrauded. Currently, it's happening. We have cases of people talking about fraud cases. They paid money to developers. They haven't been able to allocate them lands and all those things. So it's everywhere on the internet. So these are regulations that guide against these cases, just so what? Consumer rights are protected. So at the end of the day, we should ensure that the basic reason for all these regulations, for all these standards, is just to what? Ensure the protection of consumer rights, ethical practices, and use of standard materials. So we are on module 2 at the moment. Do we have any question for all we have created on module 1? Okay. Module 2 will be looking at the challenges to compliance. But before we continue with the challenges to compliance, I don't know, can anyone tell us one of the challenges you think, one of the things that will pose as a challenge to compliance? Maybe in your industry, we have defined what compliance is. We have defined what regulatory compliance is. So can you narrow a challenge in your industry to why complying to the regulations would be a challenge? Anybody at all, so that we can continue? All right, so let's just move ahead so we don't waste our time. Mr. David Thomas, I don't know, it would be nice if you turn off your video so we don't get distracted. Thank you. So one of the challenges to compliance is cost implications. How is cost a challenge to compliance? Compliance often requires significant financial investment in materials, labor, and inspection, which can be challenging for property developers. It can be challenging for landlords, and also it can be challenging to tenants that are with limited budgets. Sorry. Example of how cost implication can pose as a challenge to compliance is what? Retrofitting older buildings to meet modern energy efficiency standards. We know how expensive retrofitting can be. So if you don't have the money to retrofit, you will not be able to retrofit. So this is how cost can be a challenge to compliance. If you cannot retrofit, you are not compliant to energy efficiency. That means that means this is a challenge towards to compliance for you because you don't have enough money to do what is required. Installing expensive safety system like fire sprinklers or reinforced structures. We know how expensive fire sprinkler systems can be. Most organizations don't have fire sprinkler system in their buildings, not because they don't want to have it, but because they are quite expensive and they might not be able to afford it at the moment. So what impact does this have? The impact is that stakeholders may cut corners or they might delay compliance due to financial constraints. So when they don't have the money, of course, if you don't have the money, you will not do it. Or you will delay it until you have the money to do it. So that is how cost implication poses as a challenge to compliance. Then another challenge is enforcement gaps. Enforcement gaps. So this is described as ineffective enforcement of regulations can result from inadequate resources. It can result from corruption or lack of trained personnel in regulatory agencies. Example, insufficient building inspectors to monitor compliance. Most times we have insufficient personnel that goes around to monitor this compliance. So that becomes a challenge to compliance because there is no adequate manpower to monitor compliance. Bribery allows substandard buildings to pass inspection. This is a general thing. We don't need to talk more about how they give you the brown envelope and you overlook. Impact. So the impact is non-compliance becomes normalized, undermining the purpose of regulation. So when there is enforcement gap, people normalize non-compliance. It becomes the norm. That means it undermines the essence of regulation entirely. So why do you even have to put up regulations when people have normalized compliance? So that's the effect of enforcement gap. And that is how it is a challenge to compliance. Then another challenge is resistance from stakeholders. Developers, landlords, or homeowners may resist regulations they perceive as overly restrictive or burdensome. When they feel like this is too much, it's restricting them from doing some things, they might resist that regulation. A typical example is opposition to rent control laws or zoning restrictions. There's been a lot of restrictions and there's been a lot of oppositions from homeowners and landlords since Lagos State wanted to implement monthly rental structure, a system where rent can be paid monthly, and then there's been a lot of opposition from homeowners challenging that. So this is how resistance from stakeholders can pose as a challenge to compliance. Then reluctance to adhere to accessibility standards for older buildings. The impact of this is it creates pushback that can delay policy implementation, or it can even lead to legal disputes. And once there is a legal dispute, implementation is stalled. And once it's stalled, people start living their normal life, and it takes a whole lot of time before everything is sorted. So these are the challenges to compliance. So moving further, we have lack of awareness and education. Most times we blame people for something that they are not even aware of. So most times people don't even know, or they don't even have, they're not even aware of these laws. And if someone is not aware of a particular regulation, how do you expect them to adhere to it or comply? So lack of awareness is a big challenge to compliance. So let's just look at what it's talking about. Many stakeholders, including property owners and tenants, may be unaware of housing regulations or their importance. Example of this is landlords do not know their responsibility for maintenance. This is very obvious. Most of us living in a building, when you complain something to your landlord, and they will tell you it is not their responsibility because they don't know what is their responsibility and what they are not even supposed to do as maintenance in a building. Tenants are unaware of their rights to safe and habitable housing. So there are places where there is no water and the landlord doesn't care, and tenants don't even know that it is the responsibility of the landlord to provide potable water for them in the building. So the impact of this is violation occurs due to ignorance rather than intentional negligence. So most times these stakeholders are not even aware. So it's not as if it is intentional, it is as a result of ignorance. That is why they are not doing what they are supposed to do. So lack of awareness is a big challenge to compliance. Organizational compliance model. So this is a structural framework or system that an organization adopts to ensure its operations, practices, and employees comply with relevant laws, regulations, and ethical standards. It serves as a guide for achieving and maintaining regulatory compliance. So it's saying that organizational compliance standards are ways set up by organizations to ensure that their employees or their practices comply with these laws and regulations. So we will look at these models. Number one is risk assessment. We have policy and procedures. We have training and awareness. We have monitoring and auditing, reporting and whistleblowing, and we have enforcement. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this. Okay. So we have market influence. The market influence are external pressures and expectations from markets that shape organizations' compliance practices. It encompasses the influence of customers, competitors, industry trends, regulatory bodies, and public opinion. Customer expectations. So the impact of customer expectations is buyers and tenants increasingly demand homes that are safe, affordable, energy efficient, and sustainable. The regulatory environment. So these are the external influences. So we call them market influences to compliance. Regulatory environment. So the impact is government enforce housing laws and building codes to ensure safety, affordability, and environmental sustainability. Competitors' practices. Competitors in the housing market influence compliance practices through innovation and leadership in meeting market demands. So we have stakeholders. Stakeholders are individual groups, organizations that have interests in or are affected by housing development, management, and compliance. So these stakeholders, we have stakeholders like government and regulatory bodies. We have stakeholders like investors and financial institutions. We have property developers and builders. We have tenants and home buyers, or you can call them homeowners. We have suppliers and contractors. And they have their various roles they play, like the government. So the government enforces housing regulations. They enforce building codes, zoning laws, and safety standards. Then the role of the financial institutions, they provide funding for housing projects and influence decisions through financial reports. The property developers and builders, these are the people that plan, design, and construct housing projects. The tenants, of course, are the occupants. They occupy these houses when they are fully built. Then suppliers. Suppliers supply the materials and services for housing projects. Facility utility providers. So this is where we fall in. Facility managers, every facility maintenance team, everyone that is involved in the maintenance and management of facilities. So their role is they supply the essential services like water, electricity, gas, and waste management. Then we have the legal and compliance professionals. So these are the people that ensure adherence to laws and regulations in housing projects. So all these aforementioned professionals, individuals, or bodies they all are stakeholders in what? Regulatory compliance. So let's look at what strategic focus in the regulatory compliance is. A strategic focus in housing refers to identifying and prioritizing key objectives and actions to address the most pressing needs, challenges, and opportunities within the housing sector. Let's know that they are talking about observing the key challenges and most pressing needs in the housing sector. So it provides a clear direction for stakeholders to align resources, efforts, and decision-making to achieve a sustainable impact, to achieve a sustainable and impactful outcome. So affordable housing development as a strategic focus. The objective of affordable housing development is to address the shortage of buildings or houses and ensure access to affordable homes for low and middle income families. Housing is a big problem in Nigeria, especially in Lagos. And with the recent data of about 20 million housing deficit in Nigeria, we know that buildings are becoming high-end. So we have a lot of properties that most people living in the city cannot even afford. So looking at this strategic focus for affordable housing development, what this is supposed to address is the shortage of houses, that is, build more houses and make them affordable for low and middle income families. Then sustainability and green housing. The objective is to minimize environmental impact and promote energy efficient and eco-friendly housing. Regulatory compliance and risk management. The objective of regulatory compliance and risk management is to ensure adherence to housing regulations. We talked about this earlier, building codes and safety standards, resilience and disaster preparedness. The objective is to build homes that can withstand natural disaster and adapt to climate change. Data collection and reporting. Data collection involves gathering relevant information from various sources to inform housing strategies and practices. What this does is it helps stakeholders understand housing needs, track performance, and also identify areas that need to be improved upon. They are crucial in the housing sector as they support decision-making, they support regulatory compliance, they support stakeholders' engagement, and also the project evaluation. We have different types of data collection, such as demographic data, and then demographic data are population size and growth trend, income level and employment rates, housing preference by age, gender, or family size. We have data from the housing market. So these are rental prices and property values, vacancy rates and demand trends. How do people demand for buildings? What are the type of buildings people are looking for? What are the type of buildings majority of people are looking for? Duplexes, bungalows, one-room apartment, self-contained, 3-bedroom. So this would inform you about what is happening in the property market, construction costs and timelines. What are the construction costs like? How much does it cost you to build a 2-bedroom duplex? How much does it cost you to build this type of property? So these are housing market data gotten from the housing market, such as rental prices and property values. We have data from regulatory compliance, adherence to zoning laws, building code and safety standards. We have environmental impact assessments, data from environmental impact assessment. We have certifications for green buildings and accessibility compliance. We have operational data as well. So operational data includes maintenance schedule and records, tenant feedback and satisfaction level, utility usage, water, electricity, gas, etc. Then there are methods to these data collections. We have surveys and questionnaires. That is where you share surveys and questionnaires to various people. You can do it hand to hand. You can do it on the internet. You can share data on the social media handles and people will respond. So we have field inspections where you go out in the field and share your questionnaires and also ask people physical questions and get your information. We have government and public records, just like Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, we have the United Nations, we have the World Health Organizations. So these are government and public records. We have like Statista, Estate Intel. So these are where we can get our information. So let's look at analysis, review, and development. Analysis, review, and development are crucial processes in housing projects, ensuring informed decision-making, identifying areas for improvement, and guiding the successful execution of plans. So analysis involves gathering and interpreting data to identify trends, risk, opportunities, and areas of improving in the housing project. We have market analysis. Market analysis, they assess supply and demand for housing. So when you are carrying a market analysis, you are trying to, you would obviously in a housing project, you obviously assess supply and demand. How are people building? How are people demanding for buildings? So just like you do your analysis for every other thing that you want to do, you also carry out your analysis in a housing project. Evaluate property values and rental rates, and also affordability metrics. Affordability metrics, how many people are able to even afford a particular type of property, both for sales, both for rents. Study competition and consumer preferences. Yes, what are consumers looking for? Are consumers looking for buildings with cross ventilation? Are consumers looking for beautiful buildings? What are consumers actually looking for in a building project? So this is what, these are one of the things you get from your market analysis. Review applicable building codes, zoning laws, and safety standards. Assesses compliance risk and potential legal issues. Let's look at environmental and sustainability analysis. What does environmental and sustainability analysis do? So they assess environmental impact and carbon footprint of various buildings. If we have time after this class, I might come back to this environmental impact and carbon footprint, because recently everyone is talking about sustainability, and it is very important that as facility manager, because facility managers play critical roles in environmental sustainability. So we will come back to this environmental sustainability and look at some things and how facility manager can help. But for now, let's just look at what you get from environmental analysis as a facility manager. So I said it assesses environmental impact and carbon footprint, review energy efficiency and waste management practices. The review process involves evaluating the outcomes of analysis and comparing them against the project objectives, the project standards, and benchmark. This step ensures that any deviation or gap are identified and addressed. Then let's look at the activities of a facility manager regards compliance. Facility management plays a critical role in housing compliance with laws, regulations, and industry standards across various operational and maintenance activities. The compliance functions in FM encompasses tasks that ensure facility operates safely, it operates efficiently, and also within the bounds of regulatory and contractual requirements. Example of FM compliance activities in action. So we have the scenario here is compliance in a commercial office building. Health and safety. As a facility manager, you have to conduct accordingly how you plan it. It might be quarterly, it might be twice biannual, it might be weekly, it might be annually, but fire, health and safety drill, fire drill being annually is very terrible. So you might just do it quarterly, you might do it weekly, you might do it according to your the company's standards. But what this is talking about is, as a facility manager, you conduct quarterly fire drills, you maintain fire alarms, and also inspect emergency exits. Environmentals. You monitor energy consumption to meet local green building standards. Building compliance. In your building, ensure that you renew elevator permits. You inspect your HVAC system for air quality compliance. Training. Provide annual safety training for maintenance staff. And ensure that you maintain appropriate and adequate documentation. Maintain logs of inspection. When you inspect, you ensure that you write it down, the inspection date, and then the details of the inspection. Training sections. The last you train your people, what are the topics you train them on? You identify gaps. And also keep document of vendor certifications. The vendors you are using in your facility, are they certified? Are they adequately certified to even provide the services that they are providing for you? Then let's take a closer look at health and safety compliance. As a facility manager, you have to ensure that facilities meet occupational health and safety standard. That is a very key role as a facility manager. Everyone that comes to your facility should be comfortable, at least that they are safe. Then your activity as a facility manager includes conducting routine safety inspection, fire safety, electrical system, emergency exit as earlier stated. You ensure proper signage for hazards and evacuation routes. You know, in large buildings, large office buildings, large commercial buildings, or even residentials, you have to adequately put exit signs, fire exit signs. You have to put muster point. You have to adequately put all these signs so that people know where they run to when there is an emergency. Manage risk assessment for hazardous activities or equipment. As a facility manager, you have to provide safety training to your staff and also your contractors. How do you want to provide this training? But ensure that there is a safety training for everyone that works with you or everyone that operates in that your facility. Still have a lot of slides to do. Environmental compliance. FM teams ensure operational. FM teams ensure operations align with environmental laws and sustainability goals. These activities include monitoring waste management and disposal processes, ensuring compliance with regulations on energy efficiency and carbon emission, managing the use of water, electricity, and other resources to reduce environmental impact. Maintain certifications like LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Designs, or ISO 14001, handling environmental audits and impact assessments. So these are areas where facility manager comes in for environmental compliance. Compliance training and awareness. Training helps facility teams and other stakeholders understand their roles in compliance. Just like we talked about, one of the challenges for compliance is training and awareness, right? So when you train your team, it helps them to even understand what they are supposed to do regards compliance. We don't train them, people will just be doing anyhow, do what they like. But when they are adequately trained, they understand their roles regards compliance. So these activities include conducting compliance training for employees, your contractors or your tenant if you manage a facility that is used for residential. Sharing updates on new or changing regulations. So that is why we say facility managers are tagged as jack of all trade and master of all. So you should know everything. It goes beyond just managing and maintaining. You have to have information You have to update your team, update your residents, update your tenants, update your stakeholders on what is currently happening, on current trends. So you have to be able to seek for information, understand recent changes in regulations so that you'll be at the top of your game. So that's what we call being proactive. Also, developing compliance guides and standard operating procedures. As a facility manager, you have to develop SOP for your facility and everyone that interacts with your facility. So we'll move down to workplace regulations. The role of a facility manager in workplace regulation varies from ensuring compliance with legal, health, safety, environmental, and operational standards. Facility managers play a critical role in creating and maintaining a safe, efficient, and compliant workplace. Health and safety, we talked about health and safety earlier. So, like I said, it is very necessary, whatever it is that you're doing, ensure that as a facility manager, you are well abreast with health and safety compliance in your facility. That is the most important thing, and that is very critical and very crucial. You should have a health and safety knowledge. As a facility manager, you also do what? You conduct risk assessment. You identify potential hazards and try to implement measures to prevent them, just so you ensure what? The safety of your facility users. Fire safety management, installing and maintaining fire alarm, extinguishers, and sprinkler systems, conducting fire drills and ensuring compliance with fire safety laws, emergency preparedness. So we talked about this earlier. Let's move on. Regulatory audit and inspection. Preparing for regulatory inspection. So you ensure the workplace is always ready for audit by regulatory bodies. How do you ensure this? Always, so you communicate with the regulatory bodies, be at alert, always know when they are coming for inspection, and also ensure that your facility is ready. Even when it's taking you unawares, ensure that your facility is always ready for inspection by doing exactly what is supposed to be done at all times. Don't cut corners. As a facility manager, you just have to ensure that your facility is always at the top level, because audit might happen from the government, it might happen, internal audit might happen at any time. So you have to fix things that need to be fixed and set things that need to be set, so that when inspection happens or when audit is coming, you will not be caught off guard. Documentation and record keeping. Record keeping is very necessary in facility management. Documentation. What this does for you is it helps to make data-backed decision, not guessworking. So when you document things, you have where to reference back to. If there's a hazard, you documented it, what really caused the hazard, you know what caused the hazard. So whenever you're going back, you look at the record, okay, this is what caused the hazard, you would know how to fix that problem. So that is why it is important for facility managers to keep records and also keep a very correct record. Contractor and vendor management. Compliance of external vendors. As a facility manager, you have to ensure that contractors and your vendors follow workplace regulations, such as safety protocols and waste management standards. I'm talking about this. We know how nonchalant most of our vendors can be. When they come to your site, they dress anyhow. When they want to work, they don't even adhere to safety protocols. And when you tell them, they tell you, that's what we did do them now. They don't do them for the past 20 years, nothing they happen. But no, as a facility manager, you have to tell them that this is the standard for working in our organization or in our facility. And if you are not adequately dressed, you are not going to work. So you have to ensure that external vendors comply to the standard of your organization when they are working in your facility. Contract auditing, review agreement to ensure compliance with workplace safety and environmental laws. You have to always know that, okay, people are complying with the laws that are guiding that specific contract that they are delivering for your organization or your facility. Building and infrastructure compliance, zoning and land use laws, ensuring workplace premises meet local zoning and planning regulations, building codes and fire safety, maintaining compliance with building codes regarding structural integrity, fire exit, and ventilation. Module 4, hazardous substances regulation. Facility managers have a pivotal role in ensuring compliance with hazardous substances to protect employees, the assets, and also the environment. Hazardous identification and risk management. Inventory management. You have to maintain an up-to-date record of all hazardous substances used or stored within your facility. Conduct a risk assessment to identify potential hazards and evaluate exposure risks to employees and environment. Do a risk assessment. Know how your site users, your facility visitors, employees, vendors, know how they are exposed to these hazardous chemicals, and then carry out the necessary actions to prevent any hazard from occurring by the use of these chemicals. You also have to maintain a safety data sheet by ensuring that all substances have proper safety data sheet available and accessible. So safety data sheets are like a sheet where you keep like a record where you keep you write down all the chemicals, safety protocols, PPEs, and how to use these chemicals. So that's what safety data sheet is. So you have to ensure that you have a safety data sheet for all the substances you have within your facility. Compliance monitoring. Let's look at compliance monitoring. How do you monitor compliance? 1, by inspection, by audits, by incident reporting. And what are these? What is inspection? You conduct a routine inspection to ensure, that is a routine check, to ensure compliance with regulations and identify potential hazards. Regulatory audits. Work with regulators during audit and ensure documentation, that is license, permits, risk manifests, and ensure that all these things are in place. So when the auditor comes, you don't just leave an auditor to be auditing. You have to ensure that you walk around with the auditor, look at what they are looking at, ensure that everything is in place. Incident reporting. Maintain record of incidents involving hazardous substances and report them to the relevant authority if required. Report them to your supervisor, report them to your stakeholders. Whenever there is an incident arising from anything at all, whether hazard or not, whether hazardous substances or maybe trip and fall, whatever it is that happened within your facility, ensure that you document that and you also report it to your line manager, your stakeholders, or whoever it is that you're reporting to. Proper storage of hazardous substances. Provide storage facilities. Design and maintain storage areas that meet regulatory compliance, such as fireproof storage for flammable substances. Labeling. Always ensure that you label those substances. Let people know what is in which. If it is acid, you label it acid. If it is gas, yeah. If it is alkaline, you label it alkaline. Whatever it is in your site, you label it adequately so that people will look at it, see it, and also know that these ones are harmful. These ones are supposed to be used like this. These ones are not even supposed to be used at all. Most times you see chemicals in a white gallon in our facility. You don't even know what it is, and it's not even labeled. So that is a very wrong practice. Always ensure that your chemicals are properly and adequately labeled. Sometimes you see janitors bring in chemicals, they don't label them, they just keep them in the store. Check your stores, inspect your stores, check for unlabeled gallons, unlabeled materials. Let them be labeled so that whenever the concerned parties are not around, anybody by chance or by mistake walks in would see them and ensure that they don't use hazardous chemicals. That might cause, that might be very dangerous to their health, their safety. And when it happened, it is always the facility manager that will be called first. So segregation. Store incompatible substances separately to prevent reactions. Example, acid away from bases. You don't store acids together with the base. So chemicals that are not compatible should be stored separately. Training and awareness. Employee training. Conduct regular training for staff on handling hazardous substances, understanding safety data sheets, and also responding to emergencies. Awareness campaign. Provide signages and visual aids, such as hazard symbols and handling instructions in relevant areas. As little as providing use the handrail signage, mind your, how do they put this again? When you are climbing the stairs, mind your steps on the stairways. So these are awareness campaigns that you can provide for the safety of the people that are using your facility. Compliance of outsourced service providers. So this is where you have to talk about your vendors, your contractors. Ensuring compliance of outsourced service providers is key responsibility of the facility manager. Since outsourced service providers, that is cleaners, security, maintenance, vendors, they operate on behalf of the organization, their compliance with legal, regulatory, and organizational standards is crucial for minimizing risk, ensuring quality, and maintaining a safe workplace. Let's look at compliance of outsourced service providers here as the role of the FM. Re-engagement screening. As a facility manager, when your organization want to enroll or want to engage service providers for a work, you have to do what is called re-engagement screening. Before you engage them, you have to screen them. How do you do that? So it's a procedural thing. You do your due diligence, conduct background check on potential service providers, including licenses, certifications, and references. What are people talking about them? Before you engage them, check online, read about them. What are people talking about these service providers? Are they providing quality services, or do they have bad reviews? So when organizations seek for reviews, they know what they are doing. So that is how you do your due diligence. Seek for reviews, ask them for certifications, check the type of certifications they have. Are they even qualified to carry out these services that you want to engage them on? You have to do what is called a vendor compliance checklist. Create a checklist to ensure vendors meet all legal, safety, and quality requirements before you onboard them. Have a checklist. What this checklist will help you do is to ensure that every vendor you want to engage, they meet the requirements on that checklist before engagement. Audit documentation. Request and verify compliance documents such as business registration and licenses. You have to know if they are even registered or licensed to provide that service that they want to provide for you, that you are onboarding them on. Tax clearance. Do they have tax certification? Are they paying their taxes? Health and safety certifications. Yeah, what they have certification for health and safety as a business. Environmental permit. Are they permitted? Do they have environmental permit to even practice? So these are what the facility manager should do regards compliance during the pre-engagement stage of a vendor. Monitoring and reporting. Okay, we have treated monitoring and reporting. So let's look at performance evaluation. As a facility manager also, you have to have a way to evaluate the performance of these vendors that have engaged. What do you do in this scenario? You have your KPIs. So you have to review your KPIs, regularly review performance against the KPIs outlined in the service level agreement. So in your key performance indicators, you have to look at it and see if your vendor or the service provider is even meeting their KPIs. So that is where you have to come in performance evaluation. Feedback loops. Collect feedback from internal stakeholders to assess the quality and compliance of outsourced services. You see, feedback is very important in facility management, but we often run away from feedbacks because we don't want to hear the hard truths. We don't want to hear that part where someone is telling you, I don't like this aspect of your services. I don't like this aspect of your operations. But collecting feedback will really help you to know your lapses and improve upon them. Do you get? So in this aspect, we are talking about feedback, collecting feedback from everyone that you're providing services with, or everyone that is using your services, your stakeholders, collect feedback from them, collect feedback from those people you're working for to even know how you are performing in this facility. Then corrective actions. Address non-compliance with corrective action plan and also track resolution. Clearly define contracts. As a facility manager, you have to ensure that your contracts are clearly defined so that you know what you are expecting. And your service provider, the vendor you are engaging, also know what they are expected to deliver. Let's look at what it's talking about. Service level agreements. They include detailed KPIs for performance, safety, and compliance expectations so that you know what you're expecting from them. When there is a service level agreement, you know when someone is failing on their services, you know what to expect from them, you know what to demand from them. Compliance clauses specify adherence to legal, safety, and environmental regulations within the contract. Termination clause outline penalties for non-compliance, including contract termination. Let your service providers know what would amount to termination of contract. In some cases, when you write to them, when you email them of service failure like 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, that would amount to that would amount to non-compliance or lead to contract termination. So you have to put a clause as to what would amount to termination of the contract, so that when you are terminating the contract, they would even know that, okay, you are terminating it because we failed in this aspect as contained in the contract agreement. Protective equipments. Do we have any questions while we continue? If you have a question, you can just indicate by raising your hand. You ask a question, and then we'll have it attended to. Sorry, can someone still hear me on this class? Let me know. Let me know I'm not speaking to myself.
We can hear you,
Yeah,
sir.
I can hear you.
All right. In facility management, compliance with protective equipment regulations is essential to ensure the safety of workers, occupants, and facility users. The key activities related to PPE includes PPE is personal protective equipment. Just like when I started this conversation, that is Mr. Let me go through that list again. I think that is Mr. Ibrahim or something, the engineer. So he was on his as at the time we started on his PPE. So we are now looking at protective equipment regulation, procurement and distribution of PPEs. You have to source and provide the correct PPE based on job roles, such as hard hats for construction and maintenance, safety gloves, janitorial and electrical works. You know, the type of glove you will wear for electrical work is different from the type of glove you wear for janitorial services. So that is what it's talking about, depending on the job roles. Eye protection for welding and the use of chemicals, respirators and masks, dust environment and chemical handling. You have to wear your respirators if you are working in an environment that's producing a lot of dust or chemicals, so that you don't inhale dangerous chemicals. Hearing protection for mechanical rooms and generators. Safety boots, slippery areas and heavy lifting. Ensure PPE meet approved standards and is replaced when damaged or expired. Whenever your PPE is damaged, ensure that you report that to ensure that it is reported. The stakeholders should know about that, so that they replace it immediately. Like they say, half safety is not safety at all. You wear expired helmet and you think you are safe. No. If your safety is not 100%, you are not even safe at all, because what could happen when you are not equipped can also happen when you are half equipped. So ensure that at all times your PPE is replaced when damaged or when expired. So facility managers, this is your call, this is your role. Report this to your stakeholders, ensure that PPE is duly and appropriately replaced when damaged or when expired. Risk assessment and compliance. Conduct hazard assessment to identify risks that requires PPE. Example, chemical exposure, electrical hazard, slips, and falls. You have to conduct an assessment to identify risks that are related to any of these. Ensure compliance with local and international safety standards, such as Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the ISO 45001, the Nigerian Labour Act regulations. So you have to be abreast with this safety standards so that you know what they are talking about, and also ensure that you are compliant or your facility is compliant with these standards. Training and awareness programs. We talked about training before, but because we are talking about PPEs, you have to conduct regular training sessions on PPE usage, maintenance and storage, educate staff on the importance of PPE and how to inspect it for damages, monitor and enforcement, implement PPE compliance. I said it earlier, when vendors are coming to work in your facility, ensure that they wear their appropriate PPEs. Don't even give room for excuses. Monitor and enforcement. You have to monitor and also ensure that they comply with it. Set up penalties or corrective actions for non-compliance. Oga, you are working in my facility. Anytime I come and see you without your safety boots, I am going to deduct 10% from your wages, 10% from your contract fees. Put penalties. Let them know what they stand to lose. Let them know what they stand to lose when they don't comply with your standards. Because if there is any mishap in the facility, you will bear the brunt, the facility manager, and also it will affect the reputation of your organization. So that is why you have to ensure that nothing even happens. Set penalties for non-compliant vendors. Let's talk about accident reporting. Clearly defined contracts. Accident reporting is a critical safety process in facility management to ensure workplace incidents are properly documented, investigated, and mitigated. It helps improve safety measures, comply with regulations, and reduce future risks. Steps in accident reporting. So these are like procedural steps you take in reporting an accident in your facility. 1, immediately respond and provide first aid. When there's an accident, you secure the scene to prevent further harm, remove the things that could cause further harm, provide first aid or medical attention if needed. If you are a first aider, you provide a first aid. If you are not a first aider, you try to make first aid available. Call your first aider. If it is something that requires a first aid, if it's not, ensure that this person is taken to where care and attention is given to this person. Then you report the incident to your supervisor or the safety officer. Incident documentation. B, record the incident, the accident details immediately. How do you record the accident details? Include the dates, the time, and the location. People involved and witnesses who was involved in this accident or who witnessed this accident. Describe the incident. What was the incident? What really happened? Give detailed description of what happened. Injuries or damages. What are the injuries or what are the damages? Costs. Use a standardized accident reporting sheet. So an accident reporting sheet, a standardized accident reporting sheet will have all this information provided. So you just have to fill where it's required. C, investigation and root cause analysis. Conduct an on-site inspection to determine what caused the accident. Interview witnesses and gather photographic or video evidences. Identify any safety violation or equipment failure. Determine if personal protective equipment was used correctly. D, corrective actions. So these are like the steps to accident reporting. Recommend immediate corrective actions. For example, repair faulty equipment, improve safety protocols, provide additional training if needed, review and update standard operating procedures to prevent reoccurrence. Then the E, reporting to authorities. So when you must have carried out all these investigations, you now report to the authorities. You submit report to regulatory body, maybe within your in-house regulatory body. Then maintain compliance with local level laws and workplace safety regulations. The Nigerian Building Code, the NBC. So let's look at what Nigerian Building Code is talking about. The Nigerian Building Code is a set of regulations that govern the design, construction, and maintenance of buildings in Nigeria to ensure safety, sustainability, and structural integrity. It provides guidelines for developers, architects, engineers, and facility managers to follow in residential, commercial, and industrial building. So the Nigerian Building Code provides regulations that governs the design and construction of buildings. It provides safety standards for all the concerned professionals in the built environment. So let's take a look at the key aspects of the Nigerian Building Code. Structural and construction standards. They provide guidelines on materials, designs, and structural integrity to prevent building collapse. Load-bearing requirement for foundations, walls, beams, and columns. Seismic and wind resistance consideration in high-risk areas. So we usually don't have this type of issues in Nigeria. Seismic, that is earthquake, and all those things in Nigeria. Wind, we usually don't have heavy winds in Nigeria, but also these are the aspects that Nigerian Building Code provides standards for. Safety, fire safety regulations. We have talked a lot about fire safety regulations on this course. Fire-resistant materials and construction techniques, mandatory fire alarm, extinguisher and escape routes, emergency exit and evacuation plan for public spaces. So they provide standards for evacuating, they provide standards for emergency exit, they provide standards for fire-resistant materials. So these are just standards that the Nigerian Building Code provides. Then accessibility and public safety. Provision for people with disabilities, including ramps and elevators, adequate ventilation, lighting, and sanitary facilities, compliance with occupancy limits to prevent overcrowding. So let's look at some built environment regulatory agencies in Nigeria. So we have the Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria. We have Architects Regulation Council of Nigeria. And we have our darling COREN. So sir, you have seen your COREN, right? The Council for Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria. Then we have the Town Planners Regulation Council. So there are just a lot of them, but these are just the few that we can mention for the purpose of this class. Council for Registered Builders in Nigeria. This is who they are. It's a body corporately empowered to regulate the practice of building construction, maintenance, and management in Nigeria. So they regulate trainings, professional courses in Nigerian universities and polytechnics. We have for architects, we have for engineers, develop, design, and analyze engineering projects, ensure they meet required specifications and standards. They conduct feasibility studies and technical evaluations. And then you have the rest, town planners, Regulation Council of Nigeria. So these are for town planners, URP students, and then professional town planners. Then there are further regulations that we need to talk about. Environmental and sustainability regulations. Eco-friendly building materials to reduce carbon footprint, guidelines of waste management and pollution control, facility management maintenance, routine building inspection for structural integrity. Okay, we have talked about this before. Plumbing codes. So as a facility manager, let's look at your compliance with the Nigerian Building Code. You have to ensure safety and legally compliant operations. You have to ensure that your facility operations are safe and also legal. Reduce risk of building collapse, fire hazards, and electrical failures. Efficient energy and water use for cost saving. A healthy and secure environment for occupants. So the Lagos Model Building Code. So why we have to look at the Lagos Model Building Code is, I would say that Lagos State, when it comes to building regulations, is sitting at the top in that chain in Nigeria. I am not very familiar with other states apart from Abuja, where you have AMAC. Then do we have anything in Port Harcourt? I don't think Port Harcourt is so efficient, but that regulates buildings, that regulates the built environment and apart from the general one where we have the regulatory agencies and the Nigerian Building Code. So when it comes to different states, I am not very certain of a state that is very much invested in compliance more than Lagos State. So that's why we are taking a model from Lagos State. So let's look at the Lagos Model Building Code. The Lagos Model Building Code is an initiative by Lagos State government to establish comprehensive building regulations tailored to Lagos' unique urban environment. This code aims to ensure safety, sustainability, and resilience in Lagos' built environment. The key control activities are regulation of building control and planning permissions, regulation of ensuring sustainability, preventing building collapse, and also enforcing and monitoring. So what do they do in sustainability? This code emphasizes sustainable building practices, promoting the use of eco-friendly materials and energy-efficient designs to create a more resilient urban environment. Lagos State also is very good in enforcement. So the Lagos State Building Control Agency, LABSCA. So when you walk around new neighborhoods, you see a lot of buildings marked with LABSCA. So they are responsible for enforcing building control regulations. They conduct regular inspection on various stages of construction and issue certificates of completion and fitness for habitation. So at every stage you're building, these guys will have to come in and carry out a test, then issue you certificates of fitness and habitation. Then you continue for the next one until you are done building. So this is a very good initiative by Lagos State government. It has really saved a lot. These guys have prevented a lot of collapse in Lagos, to be precise, because without them, people will just do anyhow and do whatever it is that they want. And even in their presence, we still know that we have a lot of building collapse in Lagos. So let's just give them that. Public enlightenment of building control. They enlighten, so these are what they do, the Lagos State, the Lagos State Building Control Model. So these are what they do. They enlighten the public through its agency of Lagos State Building Control Agency, this is LABSCA, by employing various strategies to educate and inform the public about building control regulations and best practices. Social media engagement. The agency maintains an active presence on platforms like Instagram, Facebook, they are on Twitter, where they share updates, educational contents, and announcements to reach a broader audience. Accredited agent program. So through the certified accreditor program, that's the CPA, LABSCA collaborates with accredited professionals to enhance monitoring and inspection of building projects, ensuring adherence to standards. Stage certification and certification of fitness for habitation. The Lagos Model Building Code requires that all construction projects undergo multiple certification stages to ensure compliance with safety and structural integrity. So there are a lot of certification processes you have to go through if you're building in Lagos, just so they ensure structural integrity and safety. So let's look at what state certification is. This involves mandatory inspection and approval at various stages of building to confirm compliance with regulations. What are we talking about here? At various stages of your building, these guys will come from foundation. They will come and look at it and certify it before you continue to the next stage. So if they don't certify your foundation, you are not supposed to continue to the next stage, but you have practices where people just continue to build. That is when they will come and mark your house to stop. So when you are done, when they certify your foundation, you can now start laying your walls, laying your blocks. When you are done laying your block, they now come back again to certify if you can proceed to roofing, depending on how many stories you're building. So this is what stage certification is. At every stage you get to on the construction, they have to certify it before you continue to the next one. The key certification and the key stages of the certification includes site preparation and foundation stage. Depending on the type of housing you're building, when you are preparing your site, they even have to come and look at it. The soil structure, the soil texture, what type of thing do you have there, the type of foundation, then they inspect on site conditions, soil testing and foundation reinforcement, structural framework and superstructure stage. Structural framework, what is the structural framework? Is it adequate enough? Is it strong enough to carry the type of building you want to put up there? Verification of columns, beams, slabs, and reinforcement before casting. So these are the various stages that they certify. Roofing, electrical and plumbing installation stages. Ensuring proper installation, that is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Review of plastering, painting, flooring, and overall aesthetics. So this is the last stage of your building. So these are the various stages that Lagos Model Building Code provide certification for. So at every stage, you are supposed to obtain a certificate before you can proceed to the next stage. Certificate of fitness for habitation. This is the final approval granted to a building after successful completion of all constructions and compliance checks. It confirmed that the structure is safe, habitable, and legally compliant. So once they issue you this certification for habitation, you have passed all other processes and stages. So this is the last stage where they now come in and give you a certification for fitness and habitation. So what are the requirements for fitness and habitation certificate? Completion of all stages certifications. You must complete all the stages and you must have certificates for them. Compliance with fire safety, ventilation, and environmental standards. You must have your safety equipments intact, so they must certify that as well. Proper installation of electrical, plumbing, and structural elements. Verification of zoning regulations. Are you even building where you are supposed to build? Occupancy limits. People living in this place, how many people are supposed to occupy this place? And accessibility features. Is it accessible? Is it where people can easily access? The importance of this certification are, it prevents building collapse. It ensures that structural integrity is maintained at all stages. Regulatory compliance, it avoids legal penalties or demolition orders. Safety assurance, protects life by verifying adherence to safety standards. We know there are a lot of places Lagos State is demolishing buildings. Like I said earlier, most of them are because they are blocking the drainage channels. Most of them are because they did not meet to these safety standards. They weren't certified. You just build. When they come, they demolish your building and you start from afresh. So it is very necessary that before you continue as a facility manager, you advise your client, you advise your business, you advise your organization. These are the guys you have to talk to, meet with them, and understand what their requirements are before you can proceed with that your construction. Lagos State Building Regulatory Agencies. So let's look at the building regulatory agencies. Before anyone commences any single development activity in Lagos State, there are important government agencies to meet and get their certifications from different levels of development. These agencies are the Lagos State Physical Planning Permit Authority, LASPA. What do these guys do? They give you building approval for all buildings in Lagos State. They oversee such development as new development, when you are starting from afresh, redevelopment, when you want to redevelop your building or you are restructuring it, renovations, putting up of fencing, revalidation. So after expiration of 2 years of obtaining permit without commencement of construction, so if you obtain a permit to build and after 2 years you did not commence your construction, you have to, it is required that you have to go for a validation. They have to revalidate that your permit before you can continue. So it is LASPA that is responsible for that revalidation. Demolition, the issue for your building to be demolished. If you want to add additional floors to your building, these are the guys that give you that permit, LASPA. So Lagos State Building Control Agency, we talked about them, very powerful guys. LASCA, they carry out the inspection of building works and give certifications for various stages of building construction and keep of such records. The Lagos State Safety Commission, they are responsible for coordination of all government matters relating to safety of lives and property. The commission is vested with power to formulate policies, provide advisory services, and be the regulatory body on safety-related issues. They issue a certificate of safety compliance. So when you want to build, you also have to meet these people. So these are guys you meet at different stages of your construction, so long as you are building something in Lagos. Lagos State Material Testing Laboratory. So these are the guys that test your equipment, that test the things you're using to build. They exist to ensure zero tolerance for building and civil engineering infrastructure collapse. Most times, this is as a result of substandard or inferior quality building materials. So these guys test the building materials you use throughout your construction. They consist of 3 levels of testing. They test your concrete, they test your steel, that is the steels, the iron rods you want to use for your construction, and they also do chemical laboratory. they test your soil, they test your cement, the things you want to use for this construction. So it is Lagos State Material Testing Laboratory that are responsible for this. Lagos State Building Regulatory Agencies, we have LOMA, the popular guys. Specifically, the Construction, Demolition and Disaster Waste Management Department. They handle the evacuation of your construction wastes. These guys can seal your site if you are found wanting, especially when there are no prior arrangement with them. So before you even dispose any waste, you have to meet LOMA. This is not about you cleared your site and you want to dispose it yourself. The debris from your buildings, you want to dispose it yourself. LOMA has to be involved.
Thank you. I'm Pandora. I don't know what it means for India.
Then we have the local council development area. The council guys.
It's like I'm not going to say the MTN network. Say the for here.
Hello, who is? Can you mute your mic, please?
Why did he request for MTN? Now me go suggest something go back. I go back for them.
Mr. Innocent, can you mute your mic? All right, so this is the last slide for this class, and we are talking about the local council guys. So these are the guys that live within your neighborhood. These are the ones that you call the council people. Before anything happens, they are the first people you meet when you want to build, locate the council people. They can come and do inspections on safety. They can come and do inspection on compliance, on occupancy ratio. There are just a lot of things that they do. So the local council guys are the first set of people that you meet when you want to build. They have their agents all around. Their agents are your neighbors. Their agents are the boys you see that walk around your streets. So to ensure that you comply to these regulations, in Lagos, you have to work hand in hand with all these regulatory agencies before you can proceed or you can even complete any project in Lagos State. So that marks the end of our class for today. I don't know if you have any questions. You can raise your questions now. Let's handle them. So if you have any questions, let's have your questions. Okay, Mr. Daniel, all right.
All right, thank you very much, sir, for the lecture so far.
Mr. Daniel, your voice is fainty. Please, can you be more audible?
Okay, thank you very much for your lecture so far. Can you hear me better?
Okay, yeah, you can proceed.
Okay, I do reside in Edo State, and I believe so much that Edo State does not have all these regulatory body that is applicable to Lagos State. Let's assume that someone want to start or you want to have a good information of your particular area. Like which particular regulatory body can you go to get information on what is applicable to your area?
Okay, you say you live in Ondo State, right?
Edo State, Benin City.
Edo State. Okay, so what you do is, first of all, the first point of call is, I think you can just check on the internet on various regulatory agencies in those states, depending on what you want to do, then you can proceed to your local government, the immediate local government you live in, go to your headquarters and then make inquiries about the regulatory agencies. Most of them have their offices within the local government. So that is your first point of call when you want to know about them.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Van Veen. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrongly.
Thank you, sir. You pronounced the name correctly, sir. No problem with the pronunciation.
All right.
Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture. So now the question I want to ask is, when you were discussing about PPE, I know it's of importance that the staffs we have are well dressed. But the question I want to ask is, in making provision for PPE, especially the safety boots and the other PPE that they would need, who should be responsible for it? Is it the facility manager or the client? Because in my case, we do a yearly budget, and the only thing we take out from that is the management fee. So is the PPE going to form part of the budgeting, sir? It's what I want to understand.
Okay. For the PPEs are provided by your clients. So it depends on your agreement with them, but you have to let them know that this is part of the things you need to deliver services for them. So they can now factor it in your budget. You can tell you to factor it in your budget, or they will buy the PPE when it is needed. So these are the two ways it can go. But you might, if you don't bring up that conversation during the initial stage, you cannot just all of a sudden come at the middle of the project and tell them they have to buy PPE. It's not part of the agreement. They didn't know about that already. So ensure that during the onboarding stage, you notify them about PPE, because it is part of the things you need to provide your services for them. So you and them might now agree if you have to factor it in your budget, or you can request for it as the contract goes on. So I don't know if that's enough to clarify your concerns about PPEs.
Yes, it's enough. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Emaje Salifu.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good evening. So, first thing first, when you were talking about regulatory bodies in Abuja, you made mention of a local government instead of a regulatory body. AMAC is actually a local government, but they have a development control that regulates all of these activities and all that. So that is, by the way. My question now is this. We have these development control guys that do come around to inspect every stage of the process, like you rightly said, but it is attached to a fee officially, as in legally. Anytime they come around, you are paying, I think there's a certain amount that the project manager must pay. So at some point, they don't even come again. They'll just call, please, we are supposed to come for inspection, send our fee. They will not come. So in such situation, if this project fails, do we have a right to hold the regulatory bodies responsible? Because if they did not approve it and issue certificate, the project will not proceed more than that stage. What do you have to say, sir?
Okay, I want to understand what you mean by if the project fails. Is it that the project did not you didn't complete the project, or at the end of the project, you that like the building collapses or there's a problem along the line.
Yes. Maybe at the end of the project, the building collapsed. Whereas all these things passed according to their certificate, it passed all the testing stage and all the certificates are there.
Okay. If the project fails and they certified it, right?
Yes, sir.
So the problem now is on the regulatory agency.
Yes,
but
sir.
who bears the loss?
Aside the loss itself, the contractor's license will be seized and all that. But my question is, what will now be the penalty on the regulatory body?
So that's the thing. The regulatory body now don't have any penalty to pay. So regardless of that regulation, it is even on your own good as a contractor to ensure that you build with what the regulatory agency is just interested in. Particularly, we have seen buildings that they issued certifications for and they still failed. So what they are particularly interested in is that money you're paying them. But you, as a contractor or as the owner, you have a lot to lose. Your license is at risk, number one, and the financial investment is also one of the things that you will lose. So regardless of the certificates, regardless of the fact that they are coming or they are not coming, you should ensure that you use. We all know what is appropriate. We all know what is standard in our various professions. So you have to ensure that you do what is right. That certificate is just for them to fulfill all righteousness. If you use the adequate materials and they don't issue you certificate, your house will last long. Everything will be fine. The problem is just that you will not have that permit. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what I'm saying now is regulatory agencies are just there to regulate. We know the system we live in, so I don't want to just buttress on that. But the owner of this project and the contractors involved know what they stand to lose. So they have to do what is right on their part and just ensure that these guys come, even if they don't want to come, they just give that certification and go, because you cannot go and tell them you certify this and it failed. Do you want them to give you back the money? So if it is a system where the laws work, they can be sued. But this is a system, we know the system we are in. So you just have to protect your end so well. That is how I think is the best way to handle that situation. You can't sue them because if you sue them, it's going to take a lot of time and you might even end up wasting more money. So protect your end. They say prevention is better than cure, right? So protect your end first before you can now start thinking about what to do in a situation where it fails. Is that clear enough?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Let's hear from Rita Apojaro.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thank you so much for the lecture, although I came in late. I think you've already answered the question I wanted to ask towards the end of your explanation right now. I wanted to ask, are you giving this response because of the Nigerian factor, or is an international standard not to hold the regulatory bodies responsible for things like this? But I think you gave the response, the answer towards the end. I believe it's a Nigerian factor.
Yes. So that's a Nigerian factor. International standard, you sue them. You have your evidences and you take it up upon them. You will win and they will pay. They will pay fine and damages for that. In fact, heads will go. People will resign. People will be sacked. People will be jailed. International standard.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. But for Nigerian standards, I don't want to talk about that.
So that you'll not be sued, sir.
Okay, Mr. Innocent. Yes,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Innocent. Yeah, good evening.
Once again, I had to thank you for this expository lecture. My first question is this. You have been making use of standard and code interchangeably. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You've been making use of standard and code interchangeably. What is the difference between a standard and a code? That's my first question.
Okay. Ask the second one.
Then the second question is, as regards compliance, my second question is actually a contribution in the area of compliance to HSE, Health Safety and Environment. I think just as you rightly said, it is mandatory that all FM managers ensure that total compliance. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Total compliance is being put in place to ensure the safe health and safety of its employees. And it all depends on the facility managers themselves individually, because there are some who are very complacent to these health and safety regulations. They don't see, not that they don't know that it is mandatory, but because of how tight-fisted, they are in their organizations, so they will just turn a blind eye to it. And as a result of that, things might want to go wrong. So it is left for us, the facility managers, to always ensure that these regulations are being put in place, especially this HSE, as to help in our operations. Thank you.
Sorry, I am a bit lost on that second question.
My second question is, I said it's a contribution.
Okay.
A contribution towards ensuring total compliance of health, safety, and environment in our workplaces.
Okay, so to answer your question on standard and code, right?
Yes.
So standards are like set of guidelines that you are supposed to follow to encourage best practice. Then the codes are the laws itself. So let's break it more. Let's take, for example, plumbing standards. Plumbing standards are the set of guidelines you are supposed to follow to meet the plumbing code. In this case, the plumbing code is plumbing code is ensure that wastewater runs out of the building, right? It's a code. The code is wastewater leaves the building, clean water comes into the building, right? Then the standard is the guidelines that you will follow to ensure that this wastewater leaves the building. How do you do that? The standard is you have to use a particular type of piping system. The size of the piping system you have to use. So these are the standards that you must meet to attend to that. These are the standards you must follow to meet the code. So the standards and codes are related, but they are not the same thing. In this case, if you don't use, you have to ensure that wastewater and the piping system slopes towards the soakaway pit, right? This is a standard that you must follow to ensure that that wastewater that is coming out from your building enters into the soakaway pit. If you don't follow that standard, that water will not slope into the soakaway pit. So you did not meet that code. Do you understand? I'm just giving this example as from the plumbing code. Do you understand what I'm trying to say now?
Yeah, I understand. It's clear.
Okay, so standards are set of guidelines to follow to meet the code. So that code is just like the law. So you follow the standards to meet the code. Beyond Mr. Innocent, is it clear to every other person, or is there still gray areas that we might need to touch before we close for the night? Okay, Mr. Daniel.
It's clear, sir. It's clear.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to ask a question again. My question will goes like, when you were talking about setback requirements, let's assume someone carry out a construction in an urban area that was not developed at that point, where road mapping were not properly done. Then at a long run, when the place is developed, they are now carry out a road mapping, and because of that, like a setback requirements are not met. At this point, what should the person do?
That's dicey, but I understand the fact that there are places you build where government doesn't even have plans when you start building, but there are a lot of places that are already planned, but government haven't entered them. So it is required that first, when you want to build, so this is like a build up to answer your question. So when you want to build, you do your due diligence very well. Ask questions, go to local government, go to development authorities, go to town planning authorities, understand what what government is doing or is planning to do in that area before you can continue. Some places are already earmarked for a major road construction, but government haven't entered there yet. So you have to do this due diligence well before you build. In a case where you didn't do this and you went ahead to construct and then government came in and then you observe that there is you didn't adhere to what you are supposed to adhere to, of course, government will demolish and they will not pay you compensation. That is the law. They come in overriding public interest. Then when they look at it, you did not meet the benchmark requirement. They will demolish and they will not pay you this thing. So you just lose that. So it is always better when you are building, you do your due diligence very well before you continue.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, so thank you all for the questions and the interactive section, although it wasn't quite interactive as I would have expected during the classes, but then after then, I don't know if we were writing a lot of questions. However, it was such a wonderful class, and I look forward to meeting you all again. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you and good night.
Good
Thank you
night.
very much, sir. Thank
Good
you all
night.
for joining. See you all on Friday.